So hi guys, my name is Vaisakh. I was born in Calcutta, and for the last 13 years I've been in Bombay. So I worked across agencies. So I worked in both independent agencies and network agencies alike. So from Scarecrow to FCB to Enormous to even a Calcutta-based agency called Shriyansh Innovations to right now. Last I was working with Leo Burnett. Yeah, and now I'm a consultant. So advertising actually happened by chance. So I was doing my mass communication in Calcutta, and I happened to intern at an ad agency, and I just interned because I didn't know what to do, and that's where I started writing. So I was always used to write as a hobby earlier also, but over there when I started writing for ads and I started writing for scripts and all, that's when I realized, yeah, this is something interesting. And during my internship then, so that was a Calcutta based agency of Genesis Advertising. So the name of the place was Genesis, and they had an office that time in Bombay. So that time the owner said that we need a writer in Calcutta, Bombay, so why don't you go? And that was my first month of internship, but still I went. And when I joined the place I realized I was the only writer. So it was almost like I, instead of learning the entire thing, I was learning and also teaching myself. So it was a dual thing. Yeah, so basically after my schooling I actually enrolled in MIT for a designing course. So the 4.5 years course they have, which is bachelor's in fine art design. But then I dropped out after 6 months because it was a little boring for me. I mean, so then I came back to Calcutta, and that's when I enrolled myself in a mass communication college. But that college was just a namesake college. I mean, there was nothing to wow what they were teaching. So, but I did a lot of self-learning. I did a lot of internships. I met a lot of interesting people from the advertising background, filmmaking backgrounds. So that's how I got interested in the field and the world. So I used to write right from my school days. I mean, I used to always have this habit of writing short stories and all, even for school competitions and all. But to become an advertising writer, as I said, it happened when I started interning at an agency. Before that, I never even thought of doing it. I always wanted to actually become a journalist, but thank God I did not become one. But yeah, because I cannot be in any other department, to be honest. I feel, and I mean, a lot of people might say a lot of things, but I still feel that in an agency, creative people still run the show to a large extent. I mean, we can function without them, but they cannot function without us, I believe. So over the years, I have worked on a lot of campaigns, so that have been awarded at award shows like Goa Fest, like Curious, Campaign India, AFAX, Brand Equity, a lot of awards like these. So I think one of the more memorable awards that I won was at Goa Fest, which was for a campaign for All India Radio. So it was for a body called India Radio Forum, and over there what we wanted to do is we wanted to do a campaign that showcased the history of All India Radio, right? Like how All India Radio has been a, like, as almost like a routine in every Indian's lives for almost 80-90 years, but not a lot of people knew about the stories behind it. So just to give you an example, like you would not know that the All India Radio signature tune, right, which is there, it was actually composed by a Nazi refugee who had escaped from the Nazi camp in Germany and settled in India. Yeah, there is a small village in India called Jhumri Talaiya, which everyone thinks is a fictional town, but it actually exists, and there is a very fascinating story behind it also. So all these stories were actually shaped by All India Radio. So, and we did a series of radio spots, and we did a series of long copy print ads. That was one piece that we really did not for a client that they asked us, but we went with the idea to the client that you should do something like this for a medium that is slowly dying, but it has such a rich historical significance to it, such a rich story to it. So outcome, I think a lot of more people started. So of course there was the nostalgia bit of it. So all the people who had grown up with All India Radio, they actually saw it again in a new light. All the youngsters who have not heard about All India Radio, they got a little more aware. So for the campaign, we also met like iconic that time ke RJs. So like Amin Sayani, we went and met. He was almost, I think, 90 when we met him, around 6 years back. But still, he had so many fond memories of the entire thing. So all those were very nice experiences that I had along the journey. We met another person called Gopal, Mr. Gopal, who was again a RJ with Radio Ceylon, which was that time a Sri Lanka based service. So yeah, the stories are very nice. Then we recorded those spots with very iconic people like Raghubir Yadav, like Vijendra Saxena. So yeah.
Did you record something with Amin Sayani?
Amin Sayani, no, because his health was a little fragile, yeah. But he spoke to us in interviews. I mean, not really. I mean, if it doesn't matter that if a brand wins an awards, they'll do good in the market. if a brand that's doing good in the market and it also wins awards, that means that the work that's happening is also understood by the masses and also by the classes of the award jury. So that's where you have to keep that balance. I mean, nowadays a lot of the work that you see are actually, I mean, not all the work, but most of the work are the ones that I don't think anyone outside the jury room has even seen. That's made for the jury, sold to the jury, and ends at the jury. Patli Gali, yeah. But that Patli Gali is now starting to get so wide that it's now becoming almost like a highway rather than a Patli Gali. So yeah, that's one problem I have with the field right now. That because earlier the campaigns that used to win, at least in India and in Indian advertising awards, were campaigns that were actually seen by India also. So like if you remember the Lead India campaign, that was a Mass India campaign, right? But that also won. Nowadays, hardly there is anything. Of course, there's a Cadbury Shah Rukh wala campaign that was seen by India, but a lot of ads have not been seen by India, or a lot of acts and initiatives. So of course, when I was growing up, I didn't even know advertising as a field it existed, right? I got to know about it in college, as late as college actually. So when I was actually growing up, I had role models were there, but it was very diverse. I mean, because I was very big into reading and all, I used to always admire people like John Grisham, the writer. Then of course the J.K. Rowling thing was there in my head, and then there was again the writer of Alchemist, Paulo Coelho. So all those people, and then of course I used to also watch a lot of sports. So a lot of sportsmen I was inspired by. Someone like again a Michael Jordan, because I was a basketball fan. I used to play basketball. So yeah, and then so my inspiration ka source is actually manifold. So of course when I started attaching my inspiration and my learning both were from the long copy books and the D&AD archives and all. But now when I have to think of ideas or think of unearth insights, it comes from everywhere, to be honest. When I'm traveling somewhere, the people I'm talking to, everyone I'm meeting. So that's how you observe people, come up with insights, see what they are thinking, how they talk, and that's all of that in a mixed bag goes into the campaigns that I do. Because only when I observe the how what everyone can relate to is when I will be making something that everyone can relate to. I mean, प्रिंट एज अ मीडियम अभी मैं तो लास्ट 10 साल से सुनता आ रहा हूँ कि मरता जा रहा है, प्रिंट मरता जा रहा है, बट वट आई सी इज अ लॉट ऑफ दीज न्यू एज स्टार्टअप ब्रांड्स आर नाउ मोर हेवली इन्वेस्टिंग इन टू प्रिंट एड्स, राइट? So I don't think print as a medium is going to die, but yeah, the way it is being used has to be a little more evolved. Because if you see all these Amazons of the world, Flipkarts of the world, they just take full page ads, पहले 4 पेज 3 पेज, but it is always very very offer led and very very straight, right? I mean, that's where the biggest challenge is, that how do you break that clutter? Because आज के दिन इतने startup brands हैं, इतने funding मिले हुए सबको, so everyone will be giving out their ads. So but how do you break that entire jungle कि सब लोग एक ही चीज़ बोलने वाले? How do you say something different? So अभी a lot of brands have done, like Swiggy ने I think last year एक campaign किया था, which was a print-led campaign. I don't remember the name, but it was again something very different. And a lot of brands have been doing, but I think वो और ज़्यादा होना चाहिए in every category. Yeah, brand building तो definitely no. It's all about making the logo bigger and making the offer unit bigger. To be honest, there is no brand building as such. There is no smart writing as such. There is no smart visualization as such. I mean, there's no smartness as such. It's become a very dumb medium to play upon. Yeah. So अभी भी I think जो हम लास्ट 15 साल पहले करते थे अभी वही चल रहा है. So that is again a very sad thing कि इनोवेशन में भी जो इनोवेशन 15 साल पहले हुआ है वहाँ पे रुक गया शायद. उसके बाद इनोवेशन नहीं आया कभी. So digital campaigns, yeah. I mean, we did this one campaign for Tourism Australia, which was in 2020 के स्टार्ट में, जब पैंडमिक आया नहीं था. सो दैट टाइम द एंटायर प्लॉट वाज कि उस टाइम ऑस्ट्रेलिया में वर्ल्ड कप होने वाला था. सो वी डिड अ कैंपेन विच वाज अबाउट टेलिंग ऑल द इंडियंस कि आप वर्ल्ड कप देखने तो ऑस्ट्रेलिया जाओगे, बट साथ में ऑस्ट्रेलिया भी घूमो. सो दैट वाज द एंटायर ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑफ द कैंपेन कि बहुत लोग वर्ल्ड कप देखने ऑस्ट्रेलिया जा तो रहे थे, बट ऑस्ट्रेलिया घूम नहीं रहे थे उसके बाद. यूज्ड टू कम बैक. So our entire campaign was that कि experience the game and beyond. कि game तो है ही but beyond. So we did a digital film with so the entire so I'll again send you the work. You can again feature it. So it was about this entire Australia के backdrop के shots and everything. So Australia के all the beauty shots, but it was interspersed with Harsha Bogle का commentary. So that was the entire idea. कि Harsha Bogle was talking in a language of sport. क्रिकेट के बारे में बात करें, बट जो विजुअल्स है दैट वाज वेरी नाइसली सिंकिंग इट विद द वर्ड्स. सो एंड वी डिड अ लॉट ऑफ डिजिटल बैनर्स एंड एवरीथिंग. सो ऑल दोज बैनर्स एंड एवरीथिंग ऑल्सो हैड दिस एंटायर मिक्स ऑफ बोथ वर्ल्ड्स. तो ऑस्ट्रेलिया मीट्स द स्पोर्ट. 2019 का पूरा बीजेपी का जो लोकसभा कैंपेन था, दैट अगेन आई व्हेन आई वाज वर्किंग विद स्केकरो वी did that, so that was again a very nice experience.
Yeah.
So in a span of 2-3 months we did some 30 films or something. I mean, yeah, so of course because it was a political campaign, that time it was very hush hush, सब कुछ बहुत hush hush था, because but the people who were working on it knew what kind of madness we were into, right? Because every मतलब you used to get new briefs and all 3 दिन पहले, and then in a span of 1 week you had to script to shoot to execution से on upload करना. So, but yeah, that was a very nice learning experience. I mean, because you were actually working on something which was not a brand, but which was actually shaping the India ka democracy at whole, right? Because it was working for a campaign that will actually shape the next 5 years of India. So, yeah. Firstly, I would suggest them कि they should not go on LinkedIn, because आज के दिन LinkedIn पे everyone is calling themselves a marketing guru. Everyone has opinions on everything, and मतलब even एक साल का writer has become like a copywriting expert, and they are giving all these आज अभी what I have seen, one more dangerous thing on LinkedIn is the concept of spec ads, right? So कोई भी brand को लेके कोई भी कुछ भी line लिख दे रहा है and it's getting viral for no reason. So I think that is really dangerous, because you will an aspiring copywriter or aspiring art director will never know what is right and wrong. वो बस देखेगा अगर एक चीज़ बहुत ज़्यादा वायरल हुआ उसको लगेगा that is the way to go about it. But that is not the right way. They should actually learn more from the iconic advertising annuals जो हम like how we used to do, right? Like we used to go through DNAD's archives, users archives, all of these. So I think they should also go through that. I mean, of course all those are very age old, but I still feel उसमें जो idea का value होता था, उसमें जो execution था, उसमें जो एक beauty होता था, that आज के ads में नहीं है. So that you should still keep as your Bible, your Gita, whatever. That should still be your last thing to go to, not LinkedIn. I mean, that's what the spec ad का problem is. They just think कि एक smart line लिखने से हो गया, but brand के लिए तो जाना चाहिए. And that is one thing जो आज का youngsters को again they don't know. Tone of voice क्या होता है they don't know. They just think a nicely written line is a nicely written line. I mean, yeah, so I think आज के दिन it's a lot more important कि एक brand का अपना certain personality हो, because आज के दिन if you see a lot of these, so like even a e-commerce maybe, a lot of these brands are doing almost the same thing, right? They are selling almost the same thing, they are giving the same kind of services, and to be honest there is not a differentiated tone of voice also in there. So आज के दिन I don't think if अगर आप लोगो हटा दो एक जोमेटो और एक स्विगी के बीच में brand wise या brand personality wise there is much of a difference. Both are of course talking to the Gen Z audience and all, but I mean अगर if you don't have the logo, I would never remember a Zomato ad from a Swiggy ad or a Swiggy ad from a Zomato ad. So that I think is very important कि हर brand का एक personality होना चाहिए. एक ब्रांड स्मार्ट हो सकता है, एक ब्रांड विटी हो सकता है, एक ब्रांड स्लैपस्टिक हो सकता है, बट एक कुछ होना पड़ेगा वरना यू विल गेट लॉस्ट समवेयर. सो इन्फ्लुएंशियल, सो आई मीन नॉट अ पर्सन, आई वुड से देयर वर टू पीपल. सो आई हैव वर्कड फॉर द लॉन्गेस्ट टाइम at this agency called Scarecrow. Of course everyone knows it. So there was Raghu Bhatt and Manish Bhatt who own the agency, and I think they have been the most influential people in my life जिन्होंने मुझे advertising सिखाया from scratch. Because when I joined that place I was hardly a 2.5-year-old writer. This was way back in 2013, and they actually taught me कि advertising क्या होता है, and that's where I saw the entire gamut of advertising और कितना उसके what are the different ways you can think, what are the different ways you can mediums you can use to actually communicate your story, right? So of course, and with from them I've learned a lot, right? From how to come up with a brand positioning to brainstorming to even even the kind of work that is celebrated at awards, right? I used to never understand कि इसको award क्यों मिला, उसको क्यों नहीं मिला, but they were the ones who decoded the entire framework for me in that field also. कि what works at an award show, what doesn't work, and all that. And I mean, yeah, pretty much everything, right? From making me independent, right? I mean, when I was hardly some 3 years into their system, they gave me my own team to handle. I was handling projects by myself, clients by myself. So that really helped. I mean, that really helped me become, I mean, a lot more advanced for my years of experience than, I mean, someone who would have been working in some other agency. I mean, I would like to have a program. So I mean, I know a lot of colleges like MICA and all, they have these visiting faculty courses and all. But what I feel is that what they are teaching and what is happening right now in the real world is very different, because a lot of these professors or these visiting faculties go and show them the campaigns that they have done in their earlier years, or the campaigns that used to be very relevant 5 years, 6 years earlier. But they should also be educating the students of what is the future of advertising, because that is what the students will be entering in. So So I want to build an ecosystem or a platform or a learning module where I, along with them, so instead of just teaching them, I also want to learn and teach them कि advertising अगले 5 साल या 10 साल में ऐसा होने वाला है. Prepare them for that, not like have this entire nostalgia का memory in their heads. I don't want to leave them with that. I also want them to prepare for the future and what they're stepping into. I mean, there will be no point मैं उनको अगर 10 साल पुराना लॉन्ग कॉपी ऐड दिखाऊँ और बोलूँ कि एडवर्टाइजिंग ऐसा होता था. I have to show them कि एडवर्टाइजिंग ऐसा होने वाला है. So yeah, that is something I really want to do. I mean, that can be through partnership with institutes or my own workshops, but I am still in progress. So to be honest, my dream project is to launch a brand and then work on it. So it's not to build a brand, it's to launch a brand of mine own and then build on it. And because हम लोग हमेशा एडवर्टाइजिंग में बोलते हैं राइट कि क्लाइंट ही नहीं समझता है, क्लाइंट को नहीं समझता है, ब्रांड ऐसा होना चाहिए वैसा होना चाहिए. तो ठीक है, सो आई वांट टू एक्चुअली डू जो मैं इतने साल से जो चीज़ को बोलता रहा हूँ, जो चीज़ को गाली देता रहा हूँ, आई वांट टू बिल्ड अ ब्रांड एंड बिल्ड इट द वे आई वांट टू, वेयर आई वांट टू बिकम द एजेंसी एंड द क्लाइंट बोथ. एंड बिकॉज ये सब ने बोला आज तक राइट कि मे बी क्लाइंट, अरे क्लाइंट स्टूपिड, क्लाइंट ये है वो है ये है. सो आई वांट टू बिकम दैट क्लाइंट एंड देन वर्क फॉर इट, बिकॉज एंड लेट्स सी हाउ दैट गोज. बट यार, it can be any brand, can even be a mineral water brand, but I just want to do it. And I got this inspiration because there is this water brand only internationally, Liquid Death बोल के, जो अभी I think last 3-4 साल में it's exploded because of the kind of work they are doing, the kind of बेच उन लोग क्या रहा है, बेच उन लोग spring water है, nothing special, but their tonality and all makes it seem as if मतलब they are selling some like exotic thing. That's what I want to do, start a brand and build it into something very wacky, very cool, very different. Till now they have been calling me Vaisakh only, but yeah, I think a nickname is now due soon. Yeah.
Okay.
So memorable blunder, I mean it wasn't a memorable blunder, but it was at this again for the Tourism Australia campaign, right, when we were doing the recording and all. So that time the campaign had Harsha Bogle and there was Shibani Dandekar, right, and we were recording with them in the studio. And I don't know for what reason, for the first 5 minutes and all, whenever I had to give a feedback to Shivani, I was always saying ki Anushka, you have to do this, Anushka, you have to do this, because of course she has a sister Anushka Dandekar, right. And for the 5-10 minutes, and after that she gives me a look ki who's Anushka, and that's when the client and all was staring at me. I realized, and I was like, oh shit, acha ye chal raha tha. And but yeah, it was a fun thing. I mean, she also laughed it off. But yeah, first film again. So again, my first film experience was again at Scarecrow only. So I think this film, I had not really written the script, but I was a part of the brainstorming and all. But I went for the shoot. This was for a brand called ZQ. This was a infotainment channel for children, जो उस time Z वालों ने चालू किया था. So it was a fairly simple film, nothing too grand a film or anything. But yeah, that's where I actually learned कि अच्छा, so एक DOP का रोल क्या होता है, एक डायरेक्टर का रोल क्या है. सो दैट्स वेयर आई सॉ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स फर्स्ट हैंड हैपनिंग अराउंड मी. नन एक्चुअली, अ नोटबुक. डिनर, आई थिंक, I mean, no one from advertising to be honest, but I would want to have this at least. I want to have a dinner with a round table panel actually, जिसमें एक बहुत फेमस ऑथर हो, एक बहुत फेमस फिल्म मेकर हो, एक बहुत फेमस DOP हो. सो आई वॉन्ट टू हैव अ मिक्स ऑफ दैट एंड आई वॉन्ट टू सी हाउ द कॉन्वर्सेशन को देयर, बिकॉज सब लोग अपने अपने उस, बिकॉज ऑल ऑफ देम आर फ्रॉम डिफरेंट आर्टिस्टिक फील्ड्स, राइट, बट आई वॉन्ट टू सी दैट वर्ल्ड वेयर ऑल ऑफ देम आर हैविंग अ कॉन्वर्सेशन एक साथ. हाउ दैट विल गो, दैट विल बी अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग टू वॉच. Of late I haven't been listening too much, but yeah, I mean generally I'm listening to a lot of old songs more, a lot of like the 90s and 2000s and the 80s and all, a lot more. So I'm reading this book called The Cursed Bunny, which has, I just randomly came about that book on Amazon and I've read about half the book, but it looks pretty interesting. It is a series of short stories, but very dark, very warped kind of stories, but yeah, it's interesting. My favorite brand, I think would, of course, I mean, बहुत जन ये आंसर देंगे, but mine would again be Nike, simply for the kind of attitude it brings to the table. The second brand that I really love is Levi's, for the entire history and lineage of the brand. And one brand that I have really liked, started liking now because of its entire approach is Superdry. I mean, I am thinking about it, but not a typical agency of sorts again. I don't want to be again, because आज के दिन I'm seeing a new agency starting every week. But so I don't want to add to that entire huddle. I want to build something different, which is not an agency, which is more about I just want to be a problem solver rather than a communication expert. I mean, I don't want to just be a person जो films करे, print करे, radio करे, outdoor करे client के लिए. मतलब I want them to give me a problem and I want to solve it in a very different way. It can be anything.